Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And now that the NFL playoffs is here, we broke down the entire field of the NFC. This is our second part of our team breakdowns. We got the AFC for you. So a lot less fraudulent, but a lot more competitive. Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run it.
Let's do it. Quick, easy. We're going to start with the 7th seed, the Miami Dolphins, who are absolutely limping, crawling, scratching, and kicking their way into the playoffs with an 11-6 win over the Jets, with Mike Glennon playing crucial snaps down the stretch because they can't stay healthy at quarterback at all. The big story with this team is Tua's concussions. He'll probably play, maybe, we don't know. But hey, Teddy Bridgewater's healthy, so he can play this playoff game at Buffalo if they need to. But for the sake of theory, if Tua is healthy, this offense is going to have to shoulder the load. Because if the offense doesn't outscore the other team, their defense doesn't stop their opponent enough to win them the game. The defense gives them way too many points, and it is absolutely a problem for this Dolphins team.
The only way I feel that the Dolphins end up coming out of this game, the victor, is if they end up in a shootout, and for some reason we're looking at a 30-40 point ball game from each side. There's really not much to like for the Dolphins coming into this. They've got so many question marks and so many issues, lingering things that are heading into this playoff game, especially with a team as good as the Bills. It really just feels like they're a nice 88-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle, just getting ready to get knocked out of the park.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's just not looking good for them.
The good thing about Miami is if Hill and Waddle, that duo is so explosive and so dynamic that if you get them going,
you just got to be able to get them the ball.
Yeah,
that's
you
the
got to
issue.
get
Can
those
you
to
get
the
them
ball.
the ball?
Let them use their speed and get out the way and let them just run up the score. Don't stop scoring because that is the only way that the Dolphins have a chance with the way their offense is playing and with the way their defense is playing. But up next, we have the 6th seed Baltimore Ravens, which another team with quarterback concerns because this has not been the same team since Lamar Jackson went down.
Gosh, nothing like the same team.
Not
Nothing
even
close.
Not even close. Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown are not Lamar Jackson, and that is very clear and obvious. But they're also banged up in a lot of other areas. Gus Edwards is questionable. They have their top 2 receivers on IR, and Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay. Your receiver core is DeMarcus Robinson, Deshaun Jackson back from the dead, and they re-signed Sammy Watkins, who the Packers, with their known wide receiver problems, cut. So, yeah, that is going to be an issue. They're going to need Lamar Jackson. But unlike the Dolphins, their defense has been so good at stopping teams that their offense doesn't really need to do much to score 24, 28 points, and it's a win most of the time because of how good this defense has been.
24, 28 points is going to be tough for this offense, especially if they don't have Lamar at the helm, and that's the big issue. Yeah. The big problem right now is when Lamar is healthy, he can shoulder some of what I would say is kind of their non-existent run game, because their run game is definitely iffy at best, even when they have, I guess, all of their options, other than J.K. Dobbins, because J.K. Dobbins has been, in and out this season. But the big issue for them is receivers. If the Bengals go to blanket Mark Andrews, what are you going to go to? Who's going to be that next man up? Because obviously, regardless of who's at quarterback, he's going to be the main target pretty much game in, game out.
But Tim, Deshaun Jackson has the most touchdowns of 50-plus yards in NFL history.
And when was the last time he scored multiple of those in a season?
It's a great point. I just wanted to give a fun fact about Deshaun Jackson.
I mean, it's great for them to have him because it's another body out there that at least has known to be a capable receiver at some point.
And that's the point that we're trying to make, that they just have bodies at receiver.
They're just depleted. They're very depleted, and it's tough to come into the playoffs like that, but situationally, sometimes it happens.
Any given Sunday or Saturday or Monday, because it's Super Wild Card weekend, and we're playing games on all those days now. But let's go to the 5 seed Los Angeles Chargers. Another team. They made it. Another team that just makes you scratch your head because they just make the weirdest decisions. Why they decided to play all of their starters against the Broncos in Week 18 when your seed wasn't going to change. You had already clinched the playoffs. I have no
I mean, it didn't
idea.
really end up hurting them, thankfully. It could have gone poorly, but it
No,
really
that's
didn't.
actually not true because Mike Williams got injured in the Week 18 matchup.
Okay, but when is Mike Williams not dealing with something?
That's an excellent point, but
He's
you would
always
much
he's always questionable or comes out of the game limping or something like that. If he didn't start this wild card game with an injury, he was probably going to end up with one throughout the game anyway.
but the point being is that you didn't need to play him and run the risk of
No,
him
you
getting
definitely
hurt
didn't.
anyway. And other than that, I mean, they're mostly healthy. You have Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Keenan
Great for them to
Allen.
have Joey
Yeah.
Bosa back finally.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
going to be huge for their defense to be able to put those two guys on opposite sides of each other on the defensive
Hmm.
line. That makes them an entirely different defensive team.
Yeah. Having Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on both ends, having to deal with elite pass rushers on both sides, creates problems for most offensive lines. The offense has tons of talent too, but they have been really inconsistent at times where they just can't punch it into the end zone. And they just need to be able to figure it out and put it all together. But the
For me, I think Eckler has been sort of the bright spot of that offense in the second half of the year. He's been their most consistent guy. He's managed to stay healthy, and he's kind of always been their go-to, even if they can't necessarily get him going in the running game. Then they'll dish it down in the receiving game as well. But he has been running the ball much better as of lately, and they're probably going to need a good balance of that if they're going to come out of this game comfortably.
Yeah. But thankfully, they have a pretty solid matchup going to Duval County and the AFC South
Another team,
champion,
wow, they made it.
Jacksonville Jaguars. Shout
Trevor
out,
Lawrence.
hey, shout out my boy Mike. He called it in like week 4, and I looked at him like he was crazy, saying that the Jaguars were going to win the AFC South. But
Well, if you had told me that the Titans were going to lose 7 straight to allow that to happen, I would have been like,
But a big reason why the Jaguars are here is because of their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. I legitimately think he has emerged into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The mistakes that he made his rookie season are way down. He can hurt you with his arm and with his legs. This offense goes as Trevor Lawrence goes. And he's been able to elevate guys like Zay Jones and Evan Ingram to make this team
all of those signings
relatively
that we were
formidable.
looking at were that we were looking at as kind of crazy in this offseason. Boy, they've worked out for the most part. With you talking about the contract they gave Christian Kirk,
Christian
just
Kirk
kind of
actually
randomly
looks like a number
picking Zay
one.
Jones out of nowhere. And even ETN has emerged now that he's been healthy. It's they're starting to put together a really solid offense pretty quietly. Because I mean, obviously they've been talked about, especially if you're in the world of fantasy football. Those guys have been like, okay, they're guys to keep an eye on. But they pretty quietly have snuck their way into this playoffs with some pretty impressive performances heading down the line.
Yeah, but the problem with Jacksonville is that they need their old Saxonville defensive identity back.
Yeah.
Their defensive line has struggled against some really poor offensive lines and quarterbacks. In the playoffs, especially with the Chargers, where the quarterback is much better and the offensive line is much better, they're going to need to put pressure on Justin Herbert in order to have success defensively.
Yeah, they're going to need more out of their defense than they've seen in the past. And especially with an offense like the Chargers, where if you allow them to get going, you start allowing them to, include some of the deep ball in there, get Keenan Allen working the outsides. Okay, you're in for a rough night. So they really got to get the pass rush on Justin Herbert so they can actually, force some mistakes or at least make them uncomfortable in there, make them change up the game plan.
Next up, we're going to go with the 3 seed, the AFC North champion Cincinnati Bengals. And the big thing about it's a tale as old as time. Time is a flat circle. Protect Joe Burrow because all that rebuilding they did to their offensive line, it really isn't going to matter because La'el Collins torn ACL and Alex Kappa is questionable for this wild card matchup against their division rival Baltimore.
Yep.
They've been winning, but their offense hasn't played a full, consistent football game in weeks, and they're going to need to get going. But they have Joe Cool, so anything is possible with those guys.
Yeah, I think the big thing for them is, especially on the offensive side of the ball, they want to try to be a bit more balanced. They're great at throwing the ball, but sometimes that allows their running game to sort of sputter to a halt, especially if they are having some success. But Joe Mixon can absolutely be a game changer and an X factor if you get him going and get him involved. And against a team like the Ravens here. I think that they would love to get him going, because that then takes some pressure off of the offensive line and not have them needing to pass block for 50-55 attempts during this game. So you're right, keeping Burrow out of pressure and not on his back is going to be huge for this game, because I know for sure that what they want to try to do is just sit back and try to pick this defense apart.
Now we got the Buffalo Bills coming in at the 2 seed at 13-3. The AFC East champs are a Super Bowl contender like always. Josh Allen is going to do Josh Allen things, but the big thing with that offense is their inconsistent receiver play outside of Stephon Diggs has really hurt them. Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, they've had some really off games with problems with drops and yards after the catch, and that's going to be a big thing for them to clean up with their offense. And they also just have some really big defensive holes in terms of injuries to fill with Von Miller, Micah Hyde, and Damar Hamlin. So, but they're a team playing with a purpose. They're playing for Damar Hamlin after that absolutely gut-wrenching situation, and playing with a purpose, having a why can be a really big motivating factor. And Buffalo is going to look to come out swinging against the Dolphins and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better motivator, no better way to bring a team together. I think obviously you never want to experience a tragedy like that happen, but they're definitely the most united team heading into this playoffs. And you're talking about their struggles on offense. Gabe Davis has been probably one of the biggest boom or bust receivers in all of the NFL this year, because he's had some amazing games where he's looked incredible, and then other games where you wonder whether he's actually even been on the field. And another big issue for them is whether or not they can keep turnover numbers down, because that's plagued them here and there throughout the season as well. They want to make Josh Allen's decisions about as easy as they can get. Obviously, they're going to keep trying to feed Stephon Diggs. They would love to get the running game going a bit, because that's going to help their offense a lot. But that's been an issue for them throughout the season, is they're still trying to figure themselves out as a run offense. But they're still an amazing team through and through. They're going to be leaving it all out on the field for as long as they can make a run in this playoffs.
And last, but certainly not least, is the well-oiled machine that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
They're back once again.
No Tyreek Hill, no problem. A 14-3 record in an AFC West championship has the Chiefs poised to make another run for the Super Bowl. Their offense isn't as explosive without Tyreek Hill, but with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they are certainly as effective, if not more effective. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the game. Let's end that debate. And Juju, MVS, and Kadarius Toney provide some weapons, with the emergence of Jerick McKinnon, an electric running back that the Chiefs haven't seen since Kareem Hunt left them. So the ceiling is the roof for the Kansas City Chiefs, as the great Michael Jordan once said, the second greatest player in NBA history. But the Kansas City Chiefs are looking to bring home the Lombardi.
Yeah, I mean, they're back once again. Like you said, their offense is still very much shades of what they've been in the past. But the biggest thing that I think that's incredibly interesting for them is you talk about the emergence of Jerick McKinnon. And not only is he, an explosive player that we haven't seen since like Kareem Hunt, but I think the big thing that they have missed is a receiving back. Because he's not the, world's greatest. He's not one of like a top 5 running back in the league. But when you get a guy out of the backfield that can serve as a great dump off receiver, he has been electric out of that backfield in the receiving game. When teams go to put all that attention on Travis Kelce, and when you've got guys out there like Toney and Juju Smith-Schuster, he's just slipped under the radar a lot, and it has allowed him to punish teams. So their offense is still, once again, going to be the key to their success. It pretty much always has been for their recent success, and it's see whether or not they can keep it going. The crazy thing for me is the fact that 27-year-old Patrick Mahomes is the oldest AFC quarterback in the playoffs. 27 years old.
And then you got 45-year-old Tom Brady on the other side.
So, just a measly double that.
But that's all we got for our playoff breakdowns. We have the NFC video. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. Just finished up the AFC. We're going to be coming at you with predictions and breakdowns all throughout the playoffs, and hopefully content beyond that. So we got other stuff that we did do earlier in the NFL season. If you want to go watch, check out those videos. Like and subscribe for more of us. And until next time, we out.